Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to understand about data types in JavaScript. Before JavaScript can work with any piece of information, it needs to know what kind of information it is. Think about information in the real world. For example, a person's name is text. Their age is in number. Whether they are currently logged in is either yes or no. JavaScript also needs to distinguish between these different kinds of values. These categories are called data types. JavaScript has 8 main data types and we can divide them into two major groups: primitive data types and non primitive data types. The primitive data types are string, number, BigInt, Boolean, Undefined, Null, and symbol. These represent individual simple values. Objects, on the other hand, can contain collection of information and have more complex structures. Another important difference is how JavaScript handles them when values are copied. With primitive values, JavaScript essentially works with the value itself. With objects, JavaScript works with a reference to the object. These distinctions become very important when we start learning about variables, memory functions, and object manipulations. The major question is here is why data types matter. Because JavaScript needs to know how to work with different kinds of information. Imagine having the number 10 and the word 10. They may look similar to human, but they represent different kind of information. A number can be used in mathematical calculations. Text is handled differently. Similarly, true and false are not a number or text, they are logical values. Data types allow JavaScript to understand what kind of value it's dealing with and what operations make sense for that value. Let's understand each one. First is string. A string represents text or a sequence of characters. Whenever we are dealing with things like number, person, person's name, an email address, a city, or a sentence, we are generally dealing with strings. For example, imagine an online shopping website. The product name iPhone is text, so JavaScript treats it as a string. The important thing to remember is string is used for textual information. The second data type is number. As the number suggests, number is used for numerical values. This includes whole numbers as well as decimal numbers. For example, someone's age, the price, a temperature, or a score can all be represented using numbers. One interesting thing about JavaScript is that it uses the same number type for both integers and decimal numbers. There are also specific numeric values in JavaScript, such as infinity and nan. Nan stands for not a number. Despite it Despite its name, nan is actually a special value that JavaScript uses when a mathematical operation doesn't produce a valid numeric result. Next, we have BigInt. BigInt is used for very large whole numbers. Normally, JavaScript's number type can safely represent integers only up to certain limit. But sometimes applications need to work with integers much larger than that. For example, certain scientific calculations, financial systems, cryptographic applications, or systems dealing with extremely large identifiers. That's where BigInt becomes useful. So the simple way to remember it is number is for normal numerical values, while BigInt is designed for extremely large integers. Next is Boolean. Boolean is one of the simplest data types because it has only two possible values, true or false. Think about question that can only have a yes or no answer. Is the user logged in? Yes or no. Is the payment successful? Yes or no. Is the light switch on? Yes or no. These kind of situations can be represented using Boolean values. Booleans are especially important when JavaScript needs to make decision. For example, a program might ask, is the user an administrator? If the answer is true, we can execute a block of code, and if the answer is false, we can execute a different block of code. Now let's talk about undefined and null. Undefined generally means that JavaScript knows about something, but a value hasn't been provided for it yet. Think of filling out a form. Imagine there is a field called phone number, but the user hasn't entered anything yet. The application may have a place for that information, but there is currently no value there. That's the basic idea behind undefined. It's important to understand that undefined usually represents something that hasn't been assigned or provided. Null also represents the absence of a value, but there is an important difference between null and undefined. Undefined generally means a value hasn't been provided. Null generally means there is intentionally no value. Let's use a real world example. Imagine a social media application with a profile that has a profile picture field. If the user hasn't uploaded a profile picture, the application could intentionally set that field to null. It's basically saying we know about this field and right now it deliberately has no value. So remember, undefined often means missing or not assigned. Null means null means intentionally empty. Finally, we have object. Objects are extremely important in JavaScript. While primitive values generally represent individual pieces of information, an object allows us to group related information together. For example, a person can have name, age, email address, and phone number. Instead of thinking about each piece of information separately, we can think of a person as one entity containing multiple related pieces of information. That's the basic idea behind object. Objects are used everywhere in JavaScript applications. They can represent users, products, orders, and anything else which has multiple properties. There is another concept we should understand here is array. An array is used to store collection of values in an ordered way. Think about a shopping cart. A shopping cart might contain several products. Instead of treating every product as completely separate concept, we can think of a cart as a collection of products. That's what an array is useful for. And here is important JavaScript concept. Arrays are technically objects and they have some special behavior that makes them useful for storing ordered collections. But from JavaScript's perspective, arrays belong to the object family. So basically we have talked about strings, numbers, BigInt, Boolean, null, undefined and objects. So there is one more data type, that is symbol. Symbol is probably one of the less familiar JavaScript data type. A symbol is a unique value. The important word here is unique. Imagine a building with thousands of lockers. Every locker needs a unique identification key. Even if two keys have a same description, JavaScript symbol can still be different from each other. Symbols are particularly useful when developers need unique identifiers, especially when working with object properties. You won't use symbols as frequently as strings or numbers, but they are an important part of JavaScript language. Dynamically typed JavaScript is dynamically typed language, which means we don't have to specify a variable's data type when creating it. The type can also change during the execution of the program. For example, you initialize the variable x as a and specified a value for it as a phi. So phi is a number. So later on in the execution you can provide a string value to itself, x value. JavaScript is also considered weakly typed, meaning it can automatically convert values from one type to another. In certain situations. For example, it may convert a number to text when combining it with a string. This makes JavaScript flexible and convenient, but it can sometimes lead to unexpected results if we are not careful. If if you understand this data type, you have learned one of the fundamental building block of JavaScript, because almost everything we do in JavaScript involves creating, storing, comparing, or manipulating values of these different types. That's it for the video. In the next video, we are going to use this in our actual code. So stay tuned.